In previous seasons, the best settings for everyone on PC was mostly streamlined, but with Unreal Engine 5 and DirectX 12 optimizing Fortnite more every season, choosing the best render mode and all the other graphics settings depends a lot on what your own hardware is. So instead of trying to find a single best settings that inevitably won't work for everyone, I'm going to show you all the quickest, easiest way for you to find the best settings for your personal setup. I'm using a PC with a Ryzen 5 5700X and an RTX 3060, so the results I get might be different from yours, but that's the point. Use the settings that give you the best results. The only thing you'll need for this is MSI Afterburner. And no, you don't have to have an MSI motherboard or GPU for this. MSI is just the company that made the software. MSI Afterburner can be used for overclocking, but we're just going to use it for benchmarking today. So once you've downloaded and extracted the software, open the installer and make sure both MSI Afterburner and RivetTuner Statistics Server are checked to be installed. After you go through and install both of those, open MSI Afterburner. Everything on this main page here is for overclocking, so do not just start trying to move sliders. You should not try and mess with overclocking unless you really know what you're doing. I am not responsible if you decide to crank up your clock speed and it goes wrong. The only thing we need is to click this little settings icon and go to the monitoring tab. Now, in the section called active hardware monitoring graphs, all the things that are checked are data points that will be monitored. There are a ton of options, but we only need to leave checked the important ones for us. Those being GPU usage, memory usage, core clock, memory clock, CPU usage, CPU clock, RAM usage, frame rate, and frame time. You don't have to enable any of the frame rate minimum, maximums, etc. They're all included already. Next, select frame rate and enable show an on-screen display and change the dropdown to graph. Also do the same thing for frame time. For all the other options we have checked, turn the on-screen display option on for those as well, but don't change the dropdown to graph, leave it on text. Now when you hit apply, you should be able to see in the top left corner of your screen your PC's stats in real time. As for actually benchmarking, we need to go to the benchmark tab and set a hotkey to begin recording and end recording. You can set it to whatever you want, I'm just going to do F1 and F2. Next, choose where you want to save the benchmark file that'll be made. I usually just save it to the desktop. And that's all you have to do in MSI Afterburner. Now there's just one setting that we have to change in RivetTuner Statistics Server. It's already running in the background, just click it in your system tray. If you don't see it in the bottom right, click the little expand arrow and it'll be one of the icons. Now that we're here, all you have to do is go to setup, turn off enable frame rate limiter and hit OK. Now we get to actually test settings. Minimize Afterburner and RivetTuner and make your Fortnite settings however you want to test them. For me in this example, I'm going to test performance mode versus DX12. When benchmarking, it's important to have a repeatable scenario so that you get accurate results for each test. You don't want one test to be by the ocean and another one by Megacity. So I made a benchmarking map so that you can run the exact same scenario for all of your tests. This map is literally just a repeatable test scenario for benchmarking. You just start the game, press your begin recording hotkey to start benchmarking when the countdown reaches 0. It'll fly you through the entire map to give you an accurate average of your FPS in games. On the top left, you can see your FPS and frame time. Frame time is how long it takes for a frame to render. It isn't exactly input delay, but it tends to have a positive correlation with it. The lower your frame time, the lower your input delay. So you want your frame rate to be high and your frame time low, but you also want your frame time to be as stable as possible. You don't want a bunch of spikes as those will feel like hitches mid-game. After the 90 seconds have passed, you have to hit your end recording button twice. The first press ends the recording, and the second press saves the data to a text file. Now, when you open the file, it will list all the benchmarks you've done in order. Choose the one that gave you the best results. I prefer this to looking straight up at the sky in creative because yes, you'll get much higher FPS that way, but it doesn't really tell you which settings will give you the best performance in actual games. Just remember, before you do the benchmarks, close all other programs not in use. Close Discord, Spotify, and anything else that might be open. Testing what's best on your system will always be the best option, but if you don't want to, my settings video from last season will also still be mostly accurate for this season. But I've heard DX12 can be better than performance mode on top of the line hardware, so if any of you are running 4090s or something, please let me know in the comments what kind of results you're getting. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Farewell.